Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 13 of the Beach Boys podcast. We have the trio back. I'm Mike. We got Nate and Brandon. And we have a very exciting episode tonight. We're going to be going through the solo discography of Mike Love and Al Jardine. And for me, full disclosure, I never heard any of these albums or any of these songs prior to preparing for this episode. And it was definitely an interesting experience. I have a lot of thoughts. I think this is going to be a really fun episode. Have both of you guys listened to these albums prior to prepping for this episode?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of
Okay.
them, yeah.
So I was late on
Frequently.
these. How recently? Like, when did you guys discover these albums?
The looking back with love, within like maybe a year of getting into the Beach Boys, and I've listened to Al, same with Al's album, and then I listened to all of Mike's recent albums the minute they dropped on iTunes. Stayed up to listen to them.
I mean, I've only been into the boys since like December 2019.
Are you serious?
Wow,
yeah.
You got this educated this fast?
That's insane. You must have done nothing but
You're a dictionary,
Beach Boys
man.
for a year.
Yeah, it's pretty hectic all at once kind of thing. But you know, when you get into someone like that, you kind of just want to grab
exactly
as much info as you can, you know. So I'd probably listen to Looking Back with Love, and I listened to Looking Back with Love first, I think, then probably A Postcard from California. That probably would have been like around the middle of last year or something, and then I didn't finish listening to Reason for the Season until like, well, I think actually today was the first time I listened to all the tracks, because there was a few that I hadn't listened to before. But so yeah,
it's really weird making yourself listen to a Christmas album when it's not Christmas. Like the originals, like it's fine, but then when you're listening to like Jingle Bell Rock, it just feels really weird. I don't really have any excuse. I mean, I've been listening to the Beach Boys for years, and for whatever reason, the only two people's solo discography that I ever explored was Brian and Dennis. And I did Carl for the last episode, but I knew a couple of the solo Carl songs. But as far as Mike and Al, I never explored any of it. And it was a lot of fun going through it. So we're going to go chronologically. One thing that's so bizarre about these albums is how spaced out they are. We have one album in the 80s and then four more 2010 and onward. So like massive gaps, which was surprising. But we're going to start with Looking Back with Love, Mike Love's first release from 1981. Who wants to start this one out? Brandon, I saw a little smirk. I'm curious.
I got it. All right. Well, I have a real soft spot for Looking Back with Love. I got to be honest. Like, it's out of all the albums we're talking about today, it's definitely my favorite. It's fun, you know. It's just a fun, like, it's, you know, it's kind of like it's like junk food. This album, you know, it's not, you know, it's not gonna blow your mind, or there's nothing really deep or wow, this is amazing. But it's just fun to kind of turn your brain off and listen to it. I think, you know, basically all of the songs are catchy and upbeat, and Mike's vocals, I think, sound better than he had in recent years. He's not quite as nasally as he was on Keeping the Summer Alive and stuff like that, MIU, for example. Yeah, it's fun stuff, you know?
I agree with all
I
that.
totally agree.
Nice, that's good.
I would say for me, this isn't my favorite album of the ones that we're going to talk about, but this was a pleasant surprise. I had no idea what to expect going into this, and I absolutely love the title track, the opener.
Me too.
Such a good opener. Like, I was so intrigued when I heard that first song. I was like, oh, this is actually like really solid.
I think it should have been a Beach Boys cut.
Yeah, that totally could have been. But I will say that I like the second side more than the first side. I really like the opening track, and then the next like 3 to 4 tracks, kind of, they're just like whatever to me. But then I really like the ending, like the final 3 tracks, Teach Me Tonight. One Good Reason, Teach Me Tonight, and Paradise Found. All just really nice. And I wanted to ask you guys, do you know who the female vocal is on Paradise Found? I couldn't find that online.
I swear I've heard her name before, but I can't remember it.
I'm looking over who played on the album, but I can't seem to find. No, I can't remember.
That was the other thing with a lot of these albums. There was like not a lot of information with some of them. Like the most recent Mike Love one didn't even have a Wikipedia page.
I know, but I can supply the facts.
Oh, I know. No,
Yes.
you are our Wikipedia. That's why we love having you.
So I appreciate that.
What are your guys' favorite tracks on this one?
You go, Nate.
Yeah, so there were a few things I wanted to say overall that make this album kind of unique. One that's really I always talk about the Beach Boys don't get enough credit for being innovative after like Smile happened. And no one would have ever thought there would be anything like that happening with an album like Looking Back with Love. But something that's really interesting about it is much of it was recorded when Mike Love was doing his like solo tours, like in breaks of Beach Boy tours. Like he'd do his own things, like corporate gigs mostly. And so he was on the road a lot, and he had like a portable like mobile studio set up in like the tour bus. So like a lot of this album was recorded like in a giant tour either bus or van that had like a mobile recording studio, like while they were on the road from city to city. Awesome. Yeah, so that kind of blew my mind.
So would he play these songs on the solo tour? Because prior to that, he didn't have a solo album.
Well, he had been doing those solo shows for like a year or two. So it was mostly just the same set list that the Beach Boys did. And it was guys like Jeff Foskett and Gary Griffin and like Beach Boy regular backing band, just like with Mike. Mm-hmm. So it would be very similar to like a Beach Boy set list. And then more and more as the album was completed and to promote it, he'd be throwing in songs from the album. So kind of a really interesting process when you think about it, especially given that it was happening in 1980, 81.
81, yeah. So at that point, the Beach Boys they had done Keeping the Summer Alive, and then there was like a gap of 5 years.
Yeah. So. Another interesting tidbit, and it also leads into like some of my favorite tracks, is that Brian is uncredited for production on Be My Baby.
Right.
It originated from sort of like a Love You era stuff, post Love You, and his version it was really synth heavy, and they kind of took out the synths, but like the core elements of the backing track that Brian produced is all there, and he's singing and playing on it. And I really love this version of Be My Baby. It made me cringe so much the first time I heard it, but within like a few listens, I actually really dig it. Like we were talking about, I totally love the title track. It gets a lot of hate in the Beach Boys community because people think that it's like insensitive with like Good Vibrations, Assassinations, and like
there's a lot of stuff going on. There's Helter Skelter.
Yeah, like, and people say that he's like whitewashing it, or like he's glorifying this or that. But I the way I interpret the song is that like, of course, like there was good and bad in the 60s, but the Beach Boys are about positivity. So we're, looking back in a happy way. And I love the song. The harmonies and the singing are really, really great.
Great melody, great chords.
The thing that I find amazing about it is that Mike didn't have anything to do with the writing of that song, and it's like the lyrics are just like so Mike. So it's like, Mike. How did he not write this? Like, what?
Maybe the writers like studied his motifs, and
Jim Studer and the rest of them.
How many songs on this album did Mike actually write?
One.
The last song?
Paradise Found.
Yeah, that was another thing that was surprising to me. I mean, it doesn't really take away from the album at all, but it's interesting to me how on your first solo release you only have one original.
It for a while it kind of like aggravated me because there's like that whole feeling where if like a singer's not singing his own thing. You know, you just that initial feeling you get, like what you just explained. But like recently, I've been putting together an album where everyone else is writing a good chunk of the music, because for me it's just gotten boring writing everything myself over and over, album after album. So maybe it could have been a similar thing like that, because at this point he had been writing songs for the Beach Boys for 20 years. So maybe he wanted to give someone else's pen a chance.
And also his two unreleased solo albums from the 1978, First Love and Country Love, he'd written, well, on First Love he wrote every song except the title track, and on Country Love I think he wrote every single track. So
you know, we should do for the next episode is just all of the unreleased albums.
That'd be
still
great.
Have to do that. Yeah.
That would be. I'd love that.
This album, it's like you guys said, it's really pleasant. It's not like Sunflower or anything deep, but I really enjoy the singing. I enjoy the playing. The production could have been a little bit more developed. It sounds a little rushed production wise.
Produced by Kurt Becher, by the way.
Which is shocking because he's an incredible producer. But maybe that's due to the circumstances of recording in a like tour.
Also, just the changing of technology as you got into the 80s too. Chronologically, so what year was Carl's first? Was it
81
or 81 also?
Well.
And then the second one was 83?
83.
Yep.
So I think we can safely say that Mike trumped Carl on this one. I think
I agree.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. And how?
Definitely.
I mean, do we have any comparisons of how the reception was with these?
I think they were both pretty much ignored.
Yeah, I mean, Looking Back with Love, from what I can see, didn't even chart at all.
Didn't even come out on CD, right?
Yeah, although you know what's shocking? AllMusic, the review site gives it 4 out of 5, which is shocking.
I feel like AllMusic,
but
I feel like AllMusic is quite generous a lot of the times with their scores from what I've seen, you know. But I love
Jane and Dean, though.
I love his cover of On and On and On. That is the lyrics is just like this kind of like ego, like kind of like big star, just fits Mike so perfectly. You know, I shook my hair, and I can just imagine Mike like going like that on, you know, like if he had hair to shake, right? But you know, just like, oh, look at me, you know, I'm a big, you know, celebrity, famous guy, you know, ladies, I can just imagine him doing that. So I think the song fits him, and the way he sings it is like hilarious. Like he puts like a lot of personality into it. So I like that one.
I really love the version that he does on 12 Sides that we'll get to.
Yeah, it pops up twice.
It does.
Which is doesn't
weird.
Anything else on this one?
But yeah, Paradise Found, I think, is quite a pretty ballad, actually. I think Mike did a good job with that. I think that's maybe the highlight of the album, that song, honestly. But I think that almost, I mean, it's not, but sweet like in a way, those last 3 songs are all the kind of ballads, and they fit together nicely.
Yeah,
you know, I think those last 3 songs.
I love the last 3. But my 2 favorites would be the title track and Paradise Found. How about Nate? Did you say your favorites in here?
Yeah, mine would probably come down to the title track and Be My Baby.
Nice. Cool. All right, so now we are going to go ahead 29. Yeah,
29 years
29 years so 29 years go by before another, at least between Al and Mike, before a new album is released. So we have Al Jardine's 2010 release, A Postcard from California. I was very curious about this one. I'll go first on this one. I'll just let you know my thoughts. I was very curious. I had no idea what to expect. And I listened to it 3 times. It got better every time I listened to it. And this is probably actually my favorite of all of the albums we're going to talk about today.
Fair, very fair. It'd be my second favorite.
There's a couple of things that I really like about it. I think it is a great sort of collaboration of some, new Al originals, some unreleased Beach Boys material, and also just a great feature of some of the classic, Al lead vocal songs that he did within the Beach Boys. And some great features too. There's definitely like a humorous element to the album, like Alec Baldwin doing the voiceovers, and then there's like that other song where he's saying something about a gas
BP,
station, or
yeah,
what is he saying?
I think he's like, BP, man, you're killing me. I'm
Yeah,
driving.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
but like
driving.
what you had
But you
said,
know what's
Nate.
funny? The gas station changes on the different versions of the CDs that came out.
Oh,
'Cause
really?
Oh, really?
he keeps remixing and remastering and he keeps tweaking it as Al always does. He did 2010, 2011, 2012, and now he's gonna do another one in 2021.
So it'll be another gas station.
Maybe, probably, knowing him.
That's hilarious. But Nate, like what you said to me before I listened to it, you said this is like exactly what you would picture an Al Jardine solo
Oh yeah,
album
it couldn't be
sounding
more
like.
Al. It could
And
not be more
I
Al.
think like in terms of just like being very true to Al, I think it's like as good of an album as he probably could have put out, in a good way. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that I love it. I think it's great.
But yeah, I think it's a very charming album. I mean, again, I don't think it's nothing that's like gonna blow you away or anything like that. But I think, I mean, Al, like some of this material is like Al started working on some of this stuff in the 80s for a solo album, so that's how
If
old
not
some of the stuff
slightly
is.
earlier.
If
with
not a
some
bit
of it.
earlier with Don't Fight the Sea and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think late 70s, mid to late 70s. But yeah, it's a shame he couldn't have released an album sooner, and it's a shame that he hasn't released another one so far. But yeah, I mean, Don't Fight the Sea, I think, is probably the highlight here.
Definitely.
I think that's such a good song, and it's a shame it didn't come out as a on a Beach Boys album. I think.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely worthy of that. I don't think songs like Driving are anything special. They're just kind of like a standard.
Yeah, if it wasn't
rocker.
for the Brian feature, I wouldn't care about that song.
Yeah, so a few of them, and like And I Always Will, and then stuff. It's like, no, it's kind of like Winds of Change kind of level ballad. Like it's not bad, but it's nothing amazing.
Oh, I love And I Always Will. I love the way
it's
and
nice,
that
but it's
piano
not,
intro is really nice.
Yeah, I agree with Brandon. I think Al produced the album like spectacularly. Like he's actually an underrated producer. And it's the sonic qualities of the album are actually quite similar to MIU, which like goes to show that like Al really is behind the boards, and that it's not just like a stamp on the label. And it's cool to see MIU as Al producing in 77, and then still the analog way of doing things, and then hear Al produce an album in the 2000s, and to hear like a modern take on that kind of MIU Al production sound. I really enjoy the title track. Don't Fight the Sea is out of sight. It gives me chills. That song really gives me chills. The 2012 era kind of wobble bass that happens in the chorus kind of makes me chuckle. It definitely puts a timestamp on the song, but it doesn't take away from the song. But it just reminds you like, oh yeah, this was made in the 2010s. I love hearing Carl's voice and all the guys' voice on Don't Fight the Sea. I really love California Dreamin' with Glenn Campbell. Al has some great guitar work on that. Al played guitar on that.
Yeah, that was a great solo.
That version. And I agree with Brandon that some of the originals are kind of lacking, and I think like Mike's originals are a bit stronger than some of the originals on here, like the Mike's originals that we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dig the album. I don't listen to it too often, but like you said, it's super charming, and it's like a good album to throw on in the summer.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Nice and breezy kind of thing, you know.
I will definitely echo what you said about the production too, and that was one of the first things that I noticed. Right when you hear that opening guitar part with the piano in "Postcard for California," it just sounds so clean, and production-wise, I was really surprised. And I totally agree with what you're saying about him being underrated as a producer. One thing I wanted to ask about for "Don't Fight the Sea," so obviously they're using old recordings of Carl. Did the rest of the boys because it sounds like older Brian? Like, did the rest of the boys get together for this?
Yeah, they did, and Brian's part is actually one of the topmost parts. I think he's below Matt Jardine, but also doubling him at some points. Like that was one of Brian's like highest recent vocals. Is just some of the harmonies he was doing there.
I think Brian's older part of the vocal is from like 88 or 89 or something. The original vocal from him. Yeah. And then Carl's
they could
is
have
from
blended it.
the 80s or something. Or
So
the
did
90s
them
maybe.
did them working on this album together, did this spark the idea to do That's Why God Made the Radio and do the reunion tour? Because that would be 2 years after this, right? Or were they already getting along? Were they on good terms for a while?
Could have been.
I think I doubt that it sealed the deal, but I think it probably like made them think like, okay, we could give this a try.
Right.
And then they gave it a try with that like Do It Again re-record, and that was when they were like, okay, like we can definitely do this.
Oh, one of the biggest positives I have to say about it as well. It's like it's nice to hear a 2010 Beach Boys solo album that doesn't have auto-tune and doesn't sound artificial. Like it sounds
Great
like
point.
actual instruments, and it's not like mic stuff and no peer pressure, and that's why God made the radio. It's refreshing to hear that.
That's like exactly like my thoughts when I was talking about the production. Like you just summed it up perfectly. Like it just sounds so authentic, and my favorite track on here is probably Looking Down the Coast. What that one was going to be. They originally recorded it for MIU.
LA,
around
I think it would have been
that era,
late 78.
That whole middle section, though, I love that middle section.
Yeah, this must be Monterey.
Yeah, it's so cool. I like the song that he does with America too. I thought that was a pretty song.
Yeah.
And Neil Young doing the little the campfire thing. It's really Neil Young has like such a distinct voice, and just hearing him do that little part, I thought was really cool. I thought the good features all around.
A bit, just a tad of a missed opportunity not to do another version of Santa Ana Winds. I think that would have been nice, and that would have fit, especially because the Keeping the Summer Alive version's not ideal sound wise.
I really
so that would have been nice to. In fact, that out of all the songs that he redoes, it's probably the one that would have needed it the most. So
right on.
I did like a lot of the songs that he chose to redo, though, like
cool.
especially "Honking Down the Highway."
Yeah.
I always welcome a cover from "Love You." Yeah. That's a great song. That song is cool because it starts out kind of like straightforward, like bluesy, and then when that second section comes in, it like the chords take like a pretty big like shift, kind of like what we were talking about in the last episode with add some music to your day, I think.
Yeah.
Right, how it like starts out kind of like predictable, and then all of a sudden it takes these turns, and you're like, "Whoa, how did we get here?" But it just works so well together.
On that taking one little inch at a time, like that part,
yeah,
super cool.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know the words, but maybe it made me want to go back and listen to "Love You" again. I mean, that album is just so good.
Amen. Couldn't agree more with that.
Anything else on that one?
I think that's about it.
All right. Now we are got 3 more Mike albums.
I'll start.
A lot of stuff to get into.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, nice. I saw you getting some stuff before. I was wondering if it was going to be vinyl.
You guys ready to see the goofiest? I mean, I love it, but
Oh my god.
Wow. It's a good shirt. The one on the right. I like the shirt on the right.
Right. Yes.
That guy
Like
that
more.
played him in Love and Mercy, he just like nailed like his vibe.
Yeah. I feel like it was a very one-dimensional portrayal because
Yeah,
they had to cast him as basically like the villain.
Yeah.
But I think he definitely
Yeah.
captured the asshole side of Mike.
When I first got into the Beach Boys, I definitely had that caricature of Mike in my head for a while, and I think that's probably why I was never curious to explore his solo stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But talking to you, Nate, I mean, not that I was ever an anti-Mike Love guy, but talking to you has definitely like shifted me more and more sympathetic to Mike Love.
Yeah.
Even just from watching interviews of him and stuff like that, he really doesn't seem as bad as people paint him out to be. Unless I'm not seeing the right stuff.
No, you're spot on.
No, I completely agree with you. So yeah, I
2017, Unleash the Love.
yeah. So from the day this album was announced, was so excited to hear it because most of the originals I had heard before, but in like the demo form of because basically he recorded these songs, the originals, in like 2000, early 2000s run, and then they was to be released in 2005, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. So I knew the songs and wanted to hear them fully fleshed out. So I was so excited about that. And I stayed up until midnight when the album would be available to stream, and I was horrified. The auto-tune
I wasn't expecting that.
completely threw me for a loop, and I know that Mike can sing because I had been seeing him every summer in person, and the man can still sing, and he sounds exactly like Mike Love, and he sounded great on the Reunion album and on the Reunion tour. So it took me a while to stomach, and I just accepted that it was there.
Wait, so what horrified you about it?
Just how obvious it is, you know?
Like the auto-tune and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Like the auto-tune was just so blatant, and it was like distracting. To me, at first, maybe it was just my engineer ears, but it was really distracting.
It is like, yeah.
But with that said, with that out the way, and eventually after, because I love the song so much on both like sides of the album, that I listen to the album top to front and enjoy it the whole way through. Because I feel like, and I tell all my Beach Boy friends, is like, if you can get past the auto-tune, if you're a Beach Boys fan, I think this album like checks all the boxes. So I think the arrangements are really fantastic and really like very diverse and interesting. I love how All the Love in Paris is like a Get You Back, or sorry, Don't Worry Baby kind of tribute. Like a lot of that song chord wise and rhythmically reminds me of Don't Worry Baby.
Wait, which one? All the Love in Paris?
Yeah. And Get You Back, the second track, I think that version's much better than the released version, because the lyrics are less creepy, and I like hearing. I think the arrangement's it's really cool. How there's like, you guys hear like the xylophones and like the 12 strings, and I think it was really thought out. And then as for favorites, I love Crescent Moon. That's like one of my all-time favorite songs. I think it's just, the lyrics are beautiful. The
You never
music is
cease to
beautiful.
shock me. Not that it's a bad song, just I would not expect you to say it's one of your favorite songs of all time.
I mean, I'm not sure if it would be like, I couldn't put it in a number, but
yeah,
like definitely up there. Cool Head Warm Heart, also like one of my favorite songs. Pisces Brothers is a very kind of slightly cringeworthy song, but
that chorus is a little interesting.
yeah, it's so cringe. But Mike plays it at every show the Beach Boys do since
Really?
like 2013. And so I've just heard it so many times, like at the shows with my dad, that now I just like have really great memories associated with it. So I really enjoy it for that reason. And then Ramraj and 10,000 Years Ago, mind blowing. Totally should have been Beach Boys songs, or not even that. I think Mike deserves to have like some really cool songs
on the
under his
subject
own
of
name.
Ramraj, I remember you told me that like he had some trippy songs, and this
Yeah,
like when I was going through, I was like, this has got to be probably the trippiest one, I would say.
yeah, yeah.
And it's really cool to hear, you know, Mike's experimental side, because I feel like, you know, Brian, they all have their own experimental side, and I feel like they're all so different, but they all complement each other really nicely. Like I feel like all of that like Eastern, like the chanting sort of stuff that Mike does, I feel like that's like very different from Brian's elements of experimentalism, you know.
Yeah, and I think Mike's love of R&B comes out on the album too, with Don't Want to Know, how that's sort of like an R&B feel. 10,000 Years Ago, I think is like a really powerful song about like talking about basically like things in the past and how like life is cyclical, and to like observe history, and if you don't observe history, it'll repeat itself. Just all those things. It's a really interesting message, and I think like those lyrics always get me thinking. And side two, most people feel like it's very unnecessary, and I understand what they're saying, but I think Mike's current like Beach Boys band, they are such talented, devoted musicians. Like those guys eat, sleep, breathe Beach Boys music, and their musical director Scott Totten, who did all the arrangements on side two, like meticulously studies the records. And I just think that like over the last 20 years, like Mike has really put together a solid group of musicians, just like with Brian's band. And there's never been like a Beach Boys live album post Carl or anything, because of all the legal issues that would happen with that, you know. So I was really happy to see like a kind of a testament to what Mike's live group sounds like on stage. And if the production didn't kind of suck the life out of it, I think the production's great on side one, and side two, I think it kind of sounds like a rush job. It doesn't take away from my enjoyment, because Scott Totten's guitar work on the whole second side, I think, is totally great. He has that Carl Wilson surf guitar stuff down pat. I love hearing Jeff Foskett. Now hearing Foskett on Wouldn't It Be Nice and Good Vibrations gets me kind of choked up, considering that he will never be able to sing again. So I'm really glad that Mike had a studio recording of Jeff doing those songs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love the
great
album.
points. Yeah.
I think side two captures the energy of Mike's live band, and I think side one has great originals that if you can get past the auto-tune, I think any Beach Boys fan would find enjoyment from
Well, side two also had, was it Brian's Back, right? What was that also like an old unreleased Beach Boys song?
Yeah, pretty much. And then they released it in '98.
Yeah, Endless Harmony.
It's interesting that he chose to like include that one. Oh, so it was released at that point.
It was released on a comp, yeah.
Yeah, but never on a studio album. So
that's one thing that I wasn't as aware of until I listened to these albums and did some research. I didn't realize how many like unreleased Beach Boys songs, or like songs that were on these compilations, that I've never heard. Even when you go through and just look at like based on each album, like, and then all the songs that weren't released that were you know recorded during those sessions, it's like mind blowing how much they wrote.
So mind blowing. Yeah, it's really ironic to record Brian's Back after deciding to not tour with Brian anymore.
Is he trolling? Is that a troll?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like I truly have no idea why he did this, But it's actually my favorite version recording of the song.
Whoa. Now I'm surprised.
Well, there are certain quirks that I like in the original version, and there are certain quirks. Like I love the California Girls homage at the beginning of this version. Like that's a nice touch for a song about Brian. And I think Mike's vocal is actually more solid on this version.
I'm not huge on Mike's vocal in the original version, actually. So maybe you could be right.
But yeah, what do you guys think about it?
Mike?
I like it. I liked it more the more I listened to it. The first time I listened to it, I didn't really think much of it. There were a couple of songs that I thought were cool, but then as I listened to it a couple times and kind of absorbed it more, definitely has a handful of songs that I really do like. And it's very different from the '81 release in the sense that now it's all originals. You're hearing all of Mike, stuff that Mike's been writing or had written over the years. My favorite is probably, I really like Daybreak Over the Ocean for some reason. That and also Get You Back. I feel like both of those kind of sound like they would have like fit right in on That's Why God Made the Radio. Like if it was like a Mike feature song on there.
Yeah.
And it's cool to hear some of that more psychedelic experimental stuff. I would love to hear an album of just stuff like that. I don't know how many songs Mike has written like that over the years, but I'd be very curious to hear what other stuff like that he's come up with, because I think, it's really interesting hearing that side of him.
He has he's done 3 solo albums, and it's a 4-album deal. And before like COVID and all this, he was saying that the next album he plans on having be like a feature of like harmonies, like the harmonies that his current band can pull off. So I'm not sure how psychedelic it'll be, but given how the Beach Boys have always been really experimental vocally,
right?
It
That'll
might be.
give us another episode, another review.
Oh yeah, of course. I really hope it comes out.
Yeah. Okay.
Brandon?
Time to got to rip apart a little bit. No, it's a bit mixed, but yeah, exactly. No, I think out of all the albums we're talking about, I think this is the most disappointing one, because I think the first side, if you just took the first side of the album and got rid of all the auto tune and stuff like that, it'd probably be Mike's strongest album. Even more so than Looking Back with Love, because I Don't Want to Know is probably my favorite song that Mike's ever written.
Oh, good.
It's like such a banger, and it's like, where did this come from? And I mean obviously, like, I prefer the version on First Love, and I think First Love should have been released as an album, because that's pretty solid. But Cool Head Warm Heart is really pretty. I like that one a lot.
So gorgeous.
Crescent Moon is really nice as well. Too Cruel is quite good.
I love the vocal melody on Too Cruel.
Me too. It gets stuck in my head every day.
I love that melody right there.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
It's
10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
He's quite a banger. So there's good stuff on there. It's just, I mean, the auto tunes it's too much. It really is. It's just, it's just like, oh, well, why did you have to do this? And it's, and I think side 2 is just completely pointless. Like, why would I want to hear these songs redone with like auto tune on them? I can just go and listen to the originals.
I'm kind of with you there. I think Nate did make a really good argument for why side 2 can be a good thing, but I pretty much have no interest in hearing like any Boy songs getting covered again.
I think I totally understand where you guys are coming from too. Although Wild Honey on this, I actually like better than the Beach Boys studio version. Because I just think there are quirks that I love about the Beach Boys studio version. Don't get me wrong, Carl's vocal is awesome, and I love Bruce's like organ stuff, but I just think it's kind of limp sounding for such a rocking song. Like the drums are very weak, and the guitar is very weak and for a rock and roll song. And I think this version definitely captured the rock and roll much more than the studio version.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's fair.
And Scott Totten's guitar solo is so badass. And I love John Castle's voice. They shouldn't. It's kind of auto-tuned, but not as much as the rest of the album. And I think that his vocals is so killer.
It's a great band. I love that.
Yeah.
The Rain, the Park, and Other Things. That is like such an amazing song.
Amen. It's so cool that the Castles and the Beach Boys both kind of occupied that California sound, and then Castle ended up playing for the Beach Boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
We ready for the Christmas album?
Reason for the Season.
Oh yeah.
A Reason for the Season from the following year, 2018.
Yes. It's so impressive how Mike tours relentlessly and then also has had the time to record
Busy man.
these albums. Like that's so at his age, that's really
it's weird how he just like he did one album in 81 and then you have this huge gap and then you have 3 albums back to back that were only like 2 years ago. It's the most recent one. Maybe not even 2 years, a year and a half or whatever.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy.
Who
wants to kick off this one?
I can. So what's super interesting about this one is through I can't most of the production work is handled by basically one of the most in-demand, hottest producers in the business right now. His name is Sam Hollander, and he's produced hit after hit in the last 5-10 years. Like most notably for the band Panic at the Disco, he like wrote and produced a lot of their recent hits, all their recent hits. And so like how cool is it that he wants to work with Mike? Like and I mean it's who wouldn't want to work with a Beach Boy? But so I think that's really cool, and I think he did a fantastic job with the production of the first side, so to speak, of the rock original type things. I think the first.
How many
track,
originals are on here? 3.
I believe so. We got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Celestial Celebration, Must Be Christmas, Alone on Christmas Day,
Reason for the Season.
And Reason for the Season. Yep.
4.
I love all those songs. To me, hearing Mike do a Shorten and Bread song is just like add it to the list of crazy Beach Boy moments.
Yeah.
I think that it's a kick-ass. I love the drums and the baritone sax. It's a really groovy to me. I love that.
I gotta say that that version, Mike's Shorten and Bread thing he's doing is better than the Shorten and Bread on LA, I think.
Hell yeah, I agree 1,000%.
Yeah. Way more rock. It's actually like rocking. Yeah. It's got a lot of life to it. And it's like,
yeah. I love Celestial Celebration. I think
that's the other highlight. I think
really captures
amazing opener.
Like that Brian Wilson Pet Sounds Today era production aesthetic with like the tic tac bass and the French horn stuff going on, like really cool chords and just everything. That's like a brilliant song, and that's Mike and Sam Hollander, the producer. So I feel like that shows that it's a really cool like match that they got in the studio together. And I think Alone on Christmas Day is really great. I much prefer this version to the Beach Boy version that circulates on bootlegs. I think it's a much better vocal, and I love the Spectorian, as I always say, production with like the Be My Baby drums and castanets. Jeff Foskett did great vocals on that. Interestingly enough, Scott Totten, who I talked about in the last one, Beach Boys musical director, produced all of the like religious Christmas carol songs. And I think there's some like interesting stuff going on on a few moments, but none of the religious songs do anything for me except for do you hear what I hear?
I like how his kids are singing on it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
it's
beyond
really
that, I would
sweet.
agree with you.
Yeah, it definitely continues that affair of like the Beach Boys doing everything in a family way. And I think Mike's kids do actually have a family blend in the way that like the original Beach Boys do. Like it's kind of hard to tell between the daughters, and even Mike's sons sound like young Mike and kind of like Carl. So I really get Carl vibes from his son Christian's voice. Like it's almost sometimes I feel like it's indistinguishable.
Yeah.
With the originals too, I would agree with you. At least with the religious ones at the end. The one that I really did like was Jingle Bell Rock, and it made me wish that
Totally.
they had.
I love
I
that.
wish that was one of the Christmas songs that they had chose for the original Christmas album. But I don't, because
Wow.
it lends itself so nicely to like those vocal harmonies like underneath, and I think the Beach Boys would have just destroyed that song.
Yeah, and that lead is a perfect Mike Love lead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I even
And
like
you know,
the
writing.
version.
Huh?
I even like the version of Little Saint Nick on here. I think it's it just sounds really good in my ears.
That's like when I say like I have no desire to hear like Beach Boys cover songs. To me, that's like an example. Like hearing like Mike Love or Brian do it on his solo album. Like to me, it's just nothing can compare to the original. You know, if I'm seeing them live and they do it, that's a different story. Obviously, that's awesome. But in terms of like, I'm not going to
Listening
get
to it.
really excited over it if I'm going through an album and then all of a sudden there's a Little Saint Nick cover. You know.
Yeah.
But writing original Christmas songs too, that's not an easy task. And it's, I think like you were saying, I think all the originals on here are very strong.
Yeah,
I think
totally. He
they're
still
all
got it in
great.
him.
Brian, Mike, the Beach Boys, I think they were all just great at writing original Christmas stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
I think I mean I like it's not an album that I go back to and listen to regularly, really, but I think it's better than what I would have expected from a Mike Love album from 2018. So I'll give it that. Yeah.
What's the original one that goes like da 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 da?
Is that Alone on Christmas Day?
I think that's Must Be Christmas.
I like that. That one's really
pretty. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I think the production is kind of lacking on the religious songs compared to the Sam Hollander produced ones. Like Sam Hollander nailed the Beach Boy production sound on the originals, but the religious ones sound kind of weak. But it's interesting, and because they were on the road, Scott Totten had to produce a lot of those backing tracks like on the road, like on his laptop, like programming the instruments and stuff. So like a lot of the religious ones have like like MIDI, if you guys are familiar with that, and like sampled stuff and very like computerized instruments. But still, those guys' work ethic to be willing to put together an album like while on hectic touring, really respectable.
At their age too.
Yeah, Totten would be putting the backing tracks together on the plane from city to state.
Putting the what?
Like the backing tracks for the religious songs. He would like be putting those together like on his digital audio workstation, like on the plane. So I think for that reason, it's actually kind of cool.
Oh, also, one thing I want to mention is vocals-wise, I think it's a definite improvement on Unleash the Love. They toned down the auto-tune quite a bit.
Yeah,
on like a lot of the songs on this one, which I think is good. Yeah.
It's noticeable here and there, but I'd put it in like a Lucky Old Son kind of category of auto-tune noticeability.
Mm-hmm.
To correct any notes that an 80-year-old might not be able to hit perfectly.
Right. All right, ready for the last one? 2019, 12 Sides of Summer. Brandon, why don't you kick us off?
I mean, to me, this is the least interesting album of the bunch. You know, like other than, I mean, it's cool to hear California Beach.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously, you know, it's a song from back in the day, or Skate Town, USA, originally. But
You know your stuff.
and I mean, for some reason, Al doesn't have a credit on this song.
I know. Why
which
not?
Is kind of whack. I don't know what that's
It's probably
about.
because of the Mike Al feud.
Ooh,
They don't really love each other these days.
No, so that's a bit weird, but yeah, like this album just is kind of nothing for me. Like there's not much of a point to it, you know. Like it's just, you know, it's Mike doing like a bunch of covers, and it's like, yeah. So that's really California Beach is really the only one that kind of stands out to me. The rest I really have no interest in.
I would agree with everything you just said. I think this was definitely my least favorite of all of them, and to me, this one, like I don't care for the covers that he chose to do. It's just like stuff that I really don't need to hear covered at this point. You know, like Surfing Safari, Keeping the Summer Alive, and to me, this one just sounds like probably what a Mike Love concert is like. If you go to see Mike Love, I feel like it's going to be like exactly what this album is like, pretty much.
Yeah.
I do like the cover. I think the cover of Here Comes the Sun is actually kind of cool. The Bossa Nova. I didn't mind that.
So good. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I like
really
his vocals
cool
on that.
reharmonization.
And you know, hearing him do "Girl from Ipanema," I mean, it's cool seeing that dimension, I guess, of his influences and stuff. It's not like a song I got really excited over. And I thought it was really funny that there was a Ramones cover. I was not expecting that. Another curveball.
Yeah. So I, you know, as you guys could predict, totally love this album. I
What?
I really enjoy every song, and I guess that it kind of boils down to just I'm a fan of the guy, and I like how he sings, and but more than that, I think the production, to me, it sounds like a 2019 Beach Boys album with all Mike leads.
Right.
Like the production, and his band, they're so good at recreating that sound that, of course, it's not originals except for one song in the old Beach Boys songs. But when I'm listening to it, I feel like I'm listening to a Beach Boys album, and it's I feel like I can just add that to my listening collection. Because, you know, it gets old listening to the same Beach Boys albums over and over again. So I really like, I think the version of It's Okay is cool. It has good energy. Surfing, I think, is cool, because I think the original version lacks that rock and roll energy for sure, since, you know, it was kind of a folk arrangement, if anything. So to hear that finally with like electric guitars and electric bass and a whole drum kit, I think that's pretty cool. I like Surfing Safari too, because I think it's an interesting reworking of the song to do it as like a laid back type of beach song. So that took me by surprise. California Sun is so kick-ass to me. Mike plays that at all of his shows for the last few years. Interestingly enough, Brian also covered California Sun for Curious George 2 soundtrack.
Wow.
And I think Mike's and Brian's versions are about equal. They're both cool and energetic, and they sound like they're having fun. Here Comes the Sun, I absolutely love. I think it's Scott Totten played all the instruments on it, which is like a cool fun fact. And it's really interesting, like reharmonization of like the original chords and melody, like how some parts stay true to the original melody and how some parts change. Like I think it, and just the arrangement, how the strings and the vocals come in and the particular voicings are really cool. I think the voicings that Totten chose are kind of like maybe an homage to like harmonies Bruce would have arranged. Like there's a few moments in the harmonies where I'm like, wow, that sounds like the stuff that Bruce produced. So I really enjoyed that. Girl from Ipanema is super cool.
Did Scott, just on Girl from Ipanema, did Scott Totten play guitar in that?
Yeah.
That's a great guitar solo.
Right? He's such a talented guitarist. Keeping the Summer Alive was kind of disappointing to me, actually, because I was hoping that Kyle Sill was gonna sing it, because that I think would be a perfect song for him to sing. And they kind of toned down like a lot of the harmonic aspects of what makes that song really cool, and rhythmic aspects too, like the syncopated 16th part they got rid of and just made it straight. But Summertime Blues, I like this version a million times better than the version on Surf and Safari. Way stronger vocals, way stronger arrangement. And Mike plays this a lot in concert, so it's really fun to hear them rock out on this. And the Ramones cover is my favorite on the album. I think it just has so much energy. I think I wish it would have been pushed more, because I really believe like of all the recent like singles that came out Beach Boy related, like that one to me sounds like something that people would like listen to even now. Like I think it's just a really good vocal and like great drumming and great guitar playing, and it's really cool because the Ramones were inspired by the Beach Boys. So then for Mike Love to cover a Ramones song, it's
Full
like
circle.
very full circle.
That is
And
cool. Yeah.
Marky Ramone like said that he was so honored because for that reason. And then when they premiered the song, Marky Ramone guested with the Beach Boys and played drums with them on that song. And
cool.
fun. So yeah, I dig this album. Kind of the way that you described Looking Back with Love is exactly how I feel about 12 Sides. It's nothing game changing, but I really dig. I really have a fun time listening to it, and I listen to it quite often and never get sick of it.
Do you have any other of these on vinyl?
No, I really want to get Reason on vinyl, but it was they did like a colorful vinyl, like red and green and white, and a lot of the reviews say that like the color affected the quality of the audio. So
that's not really a good
I got the
trade-off.
CD.
Can you get Looking Back with Love on vinyl?
Yeah,
You
but
can.
it would have to have been original pressing from the 80s.
Yeah.
I haven't found it yet.
That's got to be worth a lot of money.
No, they're pretty cheap.
No, they're cheap.
Really?
Because I mean, who's gonna want it?
It depends.
You know, like it's not
Probably
exactly
us, the three of us. Yeah.
And
All right, that is it. We got through all 5. That was a lot of fun and really enjoyable to listen to. I actually enjoyed all of these albums a lot more than I thought I would. Not that I was expecting them to be bad, but most of them exceeded my expectations. So hopefully we'll get that 4th album from Mike, maybe within the coming year.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, just gotta wait it out.
I had a great time Looking Back with Love.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and I forgot to mention too, was it Unleash the Love? The original title was going to be Mike Love, Not War, right?
So the legend goes.
Yeah, that's hilarious. It's very Mike. That's a very Mike title.
Yeah, he's like Mike Love, Not War. Unleash the love. I'll go unleash.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. Always enjoy these.
It's
so fun.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. Look forward to the next one. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care.